That night, I opened my banking app and watched my savings account bleed out in small, calculated withdrawals all made by someone with a key to my house. The next morning, I changed every lock. By noon, police were at my door because my parents had reported me for stealing my own money. If you think that was rock bottom, wait until you hear how I flipped the entire game on them right in the middle of my sister's engagement party, with her future in-laws watching every devastating second unfold. My name is Brooke Hale, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered that family isn't always who you think they are, especially when money's involved. The morning started like any other Tuesday in suburban Lakewood, just outside Denver. Maya, my 6-year-old daughter, was eating cereal while I reviewed client portfolios for Northlight Capital Advisors. The October air was crisp, the kind that makes you grateful for good insulation and working locks. I'd spent the previous weekend installing new deadbolts on every door slug, top of the line, the kind that click with authority when you turn them. The doorbell rang at 11:43 a.m. I remember the exact time because I'd just scheduled a noon conference call with a client in Tokyo. Through the peephole, I saw 2 uniformed officers, their patrol car's lights still spinning lazy blue circles against my neighbor's hedge. Ms. Hale. The younger officer, badge reading Martinez, shifted his weight. We received a call about a domestic situation. Your parents, Linda and Gary Whitman, are concerned about your mental state and claim you've locked them out of their property. I felt my jaw tighten. Their property. They say you've been exhibiting erratic behavior and have taken control of family assets that don't belong to you. The older officer, Sullivan, had the weathered look of someone who'd refereed too many family disputes. They're particularly concerned about a joint account and their inability to access the house for their belongings. I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me. The security camera above us blinked red, recording everything. Officers, this is my house. I bought it 5 years ago. My name is on the deed, the mortgage, everything. I changed the locks because someone has been accessing my home without permission and withdrawing money from my personal savings. Ma'am, they have documentation showing I have documentation too. My voice came out steady, professional, the same tone I used when explaining risk assessments to clients. Would you like to see the withdrawal records? The security footage? The deed to this house? Martinez exchanged a glance with Sullivan. Behind them, I spotted my mother's silver Lexus parked across the street. She was watching from the driver's seat, her phone pressed to her ear. My father stood beside the car, arms crossed, wearing that disappointed expression he'd perfected when I was 8 and forgot to put his tools back in the garage. Look, Sullivan said, his tone softening. Family disputes over money can get complicated. Your parents are worried you're having some kind of breakdown. They mentioned you've been paranoid, changing locks, cutting off communication. I'm a financial advisor, I interrupted. I discovered unauthorized withdrawals from my account totaling thousands of dollars. Small amounts, 200 here, 300 there, all with vague descriptions. The pattern matches the dates when my parents had access to my house using their spare key, a key I gave them for emergencies, not for treating my savings like an ATM. The radio on Martinez's shoulder crackled. My mother had gotten out of the car now, walking toward us in her practiced, purposeful stride, the one she used when she was about to make a scene at a restaurant over an incorrect order. Brooke, honey, she called out, her voice dripping with fabricated concern. We're just worried about you. This isn't like you. Changing locks on your family. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done. The words escaped before I could stop them. You mean the $7,000 you borrowed for Dad's root canal that you never paid back? Or the $11,000 for Shelby's credit card debt that was supposedly a loan? See. My mother turned to the officers, her hands spread wide in a gesture of maternal despair. She's fixated on money. It's not healthy. We just want to help. Sullivan's radio buzzed. We've got another call, he said, looking almost relieved. Ms. Hale, this is a civil matter. If your parents believe they have a claim to any property or funds, they'll need to pursue it through proper legal channels. He handed me his card. If you feel threatened or if anyone tries to enter your home without permission, Call us immediately. As the patrol car pulled away, my mother stood on the sidewalk, her face shifting from concerned parent to something harder, more calculating. You changed the locks, she said, dropping the worried mother act entirely. Yes, I did. Family doesn't lock out family. Brooke. I thought about Maya, asleep upstairs the night someone had been in my house, rifling through my desk, finding my banking passwords. No, Mom. Family doesn't steal from family. She turned without another word, walking back to her car where my father waited. As they drove away, I knew this was just the beginning. They'd called the cops as their opening move, but they had no idea what documentation I'd been gathering, or what I was prepared to do next. Growing up in Pueblo, I learned early that in the Whitman family, love came with a price tag and I was the one expected to pay it. My sister Shelby was born when I was 4, arriving into this world with what my mother called a delicate constitution and what everyone else recognized as the ability to cry on command. By the time I was 12, I was babysitting her every weekend while my parents went to their country club dinners. By 16, I was working part-time at a grocery store, my paychecks mysteriously needed for family expenses, while Shelby's allowance remained untouched for her shopping trips. Brooke's the responsible one, my father would say, like it was a compliment rather than a life sentence. The pattern crystallized after college. I'd landed my first real job at a Denver investment firm, finally making decent money. Within 3 months, my parents needed help refinancing their house. Just a co-signature, Mom had said. Your credit is so much better than ours. What she didn't mention was they'd already refinanced twice, pulling out equity each time for renovations that somehow never quite happened. Then came Shelby's credit card disaster at 23 maxed out cards from a shopping addiction she called retail therapy. My parents presented it to me like a family emergency. She could lose her apartment. You know how hard it is for her to keep a job with her anxiety. $11,000 later, Shelby had learned nothing except that her safety net had a name Brooke. The spare key had seemed like such a small thing at the time. 3 years ago, when I bought my house in Lakewood, my mother had insisted, "What if something happens to you? What if Maya needs us?" The guilt was expertly applied, like she was frosting a cake. So I gave them a key, along with my alarm code, for emergencies only. The emergency savings account had been my mother's idea, too, pitched right after my divorce. You need a backup plan, honey. What if Maya gets sick? What if you lose your job? Let's set up something together. I'll help you manage it. She'd sat at my kitchen table, helping me fill out the forms, suggesting I use my usual passwords to keep things simple. I'd been so exhausted from the divorce proceedings, so grateful for what felt like support, that I'd agreed. She'd even offered to help with my filing system. You're so busy with work and Maya. Let me organize your important papers. She'd spent a whole Saturday in my home office, filing bank statements, investment documents, insurance policies, taking photos of everything for backup, she said, in case there's ever a fire. The withdrawals started small, almost invisible. $200 here, $300 there. The descriptions were vague enough to seem legitimate. Transfer for household, emergency fund access, family support. Each one timed perfectly during my busy quarters at work, right after Maya's dental surgery when I was distracted, during my weekend trips to see clients in Boulder. It wasn't until I'd hired Ramon Ortiz's nephew to help me with my taxes that the pattern emerged. Tia Brooke. He'd said he'd called me that since Ramon and I worked together years ago. These withdrawals don't match your spending patterns. Look, they all happen between 2 and 4 p.m. on weekdays. When are you at work? The security footage from my doorbell camera confirmed it. There was my father, walking up my driveway at 2:37 p.m. on a Tuesday last month, spare key in hand. He'd emerged 20 minutes later carrying an envelope presumably filled with the blank checks I kept in my desk drawer for emergencies. But the real revelation came when I pulled the login records from my bank. IP addresses from my parents' house, timestamps matching Shelby's social media posts about shopping therapy days. Password reset requests sent to an email address I'd never created but that mysteriously used my mother's maiden name. They'd built an entire system around bleeding me dry, dressed up as family love and concern. Every emergency loan that was never repaid, every guilt trip about family loyalty, every offer to help with my finances, it had all been part of a years-long grift. The straw that broke everything wasn't even the money. It was a text from Shelby last week. Mom says you're being weird about the emergency fund. Stop being selfish. Family helps family. Besides, it's not like you can't afford it. That night, I'd sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine and a calculator, adding up 7 years of help, $51,000, not counting interest I could have earned. Enough for Maya's college fund. Enough for the therapy I'd probably need after all this. I looked at the spare key hanging on my key rack, innocent as a loaded gun. By morning, I'd made my decision. The locks would be changed, the accounts would be secured, and the Whitman family ATM was officially out of service. The call came at 2:17 a.m. on a Thursday. Maya's wheeze had turned into something worse, the kind of breathing that sounds like she's trying to suck air through a coffee stirrer. "Mommy, I can't." She couldn't finish the sentence. Her little chest was working so hard I could count her ribs through her frozen pajamas. The EMTs arrived in 6 minutes. I'd clutched her nebulizer, her insurance cards, my phone, riding in the back of the ambulance while they fitted an oxygen mask over her tiny face. The sirens cut through the Denver night, and all I could think was how small she looked on that gurney. At Children's Hospital Colorado, they moved fast. Severe asthma attack, complicated by a respiratory infection she'd been fighting all week. The pediatric ICU was a symphony of beeping machines and hushed voices. I texted everyone while Maya was being stabilized. Maya in ICU, Children's Hospital, serious but stable. My phone buzzed with responses. Friends asking what they could bring, co-workers offering to cover my meetings, and from my mother, "Oh no, keep us posted. Keep us posted." For 48 hours. I lived in that hospital room. Maya improved slowly, her breathing assisted by treatments every 4 hours. The nurses brought me coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. A kind respiratory therapist named Janet brought me a sandwich when she noticed I hadn't left Maya's bedside in 12 hours. "You need to eat," Janet said, her voice gentle but firm. "She needs you strong." "My family," I started, then stopped. What family? The waiting room remained empty except for other people's relatives. My father sent a text on day 2. "Any updates, we're thinking of you." Thinking, not coming, not helping, just thinking. Shelby didn't text at all, though her Instagram showed her at a wine tasting in Boulder, posting about finding joy in life's simple pleasures. When Maya finally opened her eyes properly, the first thing she asked was, "Where's Grandma?" "She's busy, baby." "She's always busy when I'm sick," Maya said with the devastating honesty only a 6-year-old can manage. The discharge paperwork took 3 hours. I was signing forms, my hand cramping, when my phone exploded with messages, not asking about Maya, not offering help with the $3,000 deductible I'd just paid. "Urgent need answer today about wedding dress fund." "Brooke, stop ignoring us. Shelby needs the Vera Wang. It's $10,000. Family helps family. Don't be selfish. We know you have it in the emergency fund." I stood in the hospital pharmacy, waiting for Maya's prescriptions, reading about a $10,000 wedding dress while calculating if I had enough in checking to cover her medications. The insurance would reimburse eventually, but eventually doesn't help at the pharmacy counter. A text from my mother. Also, "Are we still on for Sunday dinner? I'm making pot roast." Sunday dinner. My daughter had been on oxygen 48 hours ago, and she wanted to confirm dinner plans. "BTW?" Another text followed. Dad looked at the emergency account to transfer the dress money but couldn't get in. "Did you change something? Please fix ASAP. Shelby has an appointment at the boutique tomorrow." I typed and deleted a dozen responses. Finally sent, "Maya just got out of ICU. We won't make dinner." The response was immediate. "Oh, You're out great about the account access. So, that night, after I'd gotten Maya home and settled with her favorite stuffed elephant and a movie, I sat in my home office with my laptop. The emergency fund, our emergency fund, the one my mother had helped me set up, showed a balance of $32,000. My contribution, every penny saved from bonuses, tax refunds, side consulting jobs. I pulled up the transaction history from the last year, 17 unauthorized withdrawals, each small enough to avoid triggering alerts. They'd been testing the waters, seeing how much they could take before I noticed. But the dress $10,000 in one shot, that was their mistake. Too greedy, too obvious, too perfectly timed to when they thought I'd be too exhausted from the hospital to fight. I initiated the transfer to a new account at a different bank. Solo ownership, no co-signers, no helpers. Then I opened a new document and started typing, "Effective immediately. I am removing all authorized users from any accounts containing my funds. The emergency medical account has been closed and funds transferred to a secure trust for Maya's medical and educational expenses only." My phone rang. "Mom. Brooke, there's something wrong with the bank website. I can't." "Maya almost died," I said quietly. "She was in the ICU for 2 days and you never came. But you found time to demand $10,000 for Shelby's dress." "Don't be dramatic. Children get sick, and Shelby's wedding is once in a lifetime." I hung up. Then I blocked the number. The next morning, while Maya slept off her medications, I called Ramon Ortiz at Colorado First National Bank. "Hermana," he said, using the old nickname from our training days. "I heard about Maya. How is she?" "Better. Ramon, I need your help. I need to lock down everything. Every account, every access point. I need it bulletproof." "Family problems." "Family helps family," I said bitterly. "Until family needs actual help. Come in tomorrow. Bring everything. We'll build you a fortress." Ramon's office at Colorado First National Bank hadn't changed much since we'd worked together 5 years ago. Same Denver Broncos memorabilia. Same photo of his kids. Same industrial coffee maker that produced liquid strong enough to strip paint. "Show me everything," he said, sliding a legal pad across his mahogany desk. I'd brought it all. 3 years of bank statements printed and highlighted, screenshots of login attempts from IP addresses traced to my parents' house, the doorbell camera footage stored on a USB drive, even the text messages, hundreds of them, organized chronologically in a PDF. "Dios mío," Ramon muttered, scanning the spreadsheet I'd created. "Brooke, this is systematic theft. $51,347 over 7 years, I said, not counting interest. He pulled up my accounts on his monitor, his fingers flying across the keyboard. The emergency account, they were listed as authorized users. My mother convinced me it was safer, in case something happened to me. Someone could access funds for Maya. Classic. He shook his head. "Let me show you something." He turned his screen toward me. "See these login patterns? 2:45 p. To 4:15 p. Consistently weekdays. That's not random. That's someone who knows your work schedule. I have client meetings every weekday from 2 to 5. And look at this." He clicked through several screens. "Withdrawal amounts always just under $500. You know why? To avoid triggering suspicious activity reports." "Exactly. This isn't desperation, Hermana. This is calculated. We spent 3 hours restructuring everything. New accounts with dual authentication. A trust for Maya's education locked tighter than Fort Knox. No one could touch it except for qualified educational and medical expenses. Investment accounts moved to require in-person verification for any withdrawal over $100. "Now," Ramon said, pulling out a different form. "This is a cease and desist letter from our legal department. Anyone attempting unauthorized access to your accounts will face federal charges for fraud. They'll say I gave them permission. Did you give them written permission to withdraw $51,000? No? Then it's theft." He leaned back. "Brooke, I need to ask, do you want to press charges?" I thought about Maya asking where Grandma was in the hospital. Not yet. I just want them to stop. Ramon nodded, then pulled up something else on his computer. One more thing. That doorbell camera footage I had our security team enhance it. He clicked play. There was my father, clear as day, walking into my house at 2:37 p.m. The enhanced footage showed him carrying a manila folder, my bank statements. 22 minutes later, he emerged with the same folder plus an envelope. He'd stopped at his car, pulled out his phone, and made a call. The timestamp matched a password reset request on my emergency account. That's evidence of breaking and entering, fraud, and identity theft, Ramon said quietly. This is bigger than family drama. Brooke. My phone buzzed. Shelby. Mom says you're being psycho about money. The boutique is holding the dress for 24 hours. Stop ruining my wedding. I showed Ramon the text. He laughed, but it wasn't funny. Your sister just provided written evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. They're demanding money they know was stolen. I pulled up my mother's Facebook. There it was a photo from yesterday of her and Shelby at the wedding boutique. Champagne glasses raised, captioned, "Finding the perfect dress for my baby girl. Sometimes you have to invest in dreams." Invest with my money. I muttered. Save everything, Ramon said. Screenshots, texts, emails. Build your case like you'd build a portfolio diversified and documented. That evening, I sat with Maya while she did her breathing treatment, organizing everything into folders on my laptop, bank records, video evidence, text messages. The paper trail was damning. Mommy, why don't Grandma and Grandpa visit anymore? They're in time out, I said. Like when I hit Jackson at school. Sort of, but for grown-ups. She nodded solemnly. Did they hit you? I thought about how to explain financial abuse to a 6-year-old. They took things that weren't theirs. That's stealing. Mrs. Peterson says stealing is wrong. Mrs. Peterson is right. My laptop dinged with an email alert. The bank's fraud department, confirming they'd frozen the old emergency account pending investigation. Attached was a list of every suspicious transaction flagged by their system, 3 pages, single-spaced. Another email followed from Ramon. Security found something else. Check the attachment. It was a bank security photo from an ATM withdrawal. My mother, clear as day, using a card linked to my account. The timestamp was during Maya's first day in the ICU. While I'd been watching my daughter struggle to breathe, my mother had been at an ATM, stealing from the account meant to pay for exactly this kind of emergency. I saved the photo to my evidence folder, then opened a new document, Timeline of Theft During Medical Crisis. The prosecution would eventually call it Exhibit A. The transfer was symbolic, $1, just enough to prove the account still worked, that I still had control. I scheduled it for 8 a.m. On Monday, right when I knew Shelby would be checking her phone over her skinny vanilla latte, the memo line read, "For your veil. The rest is reserved for people who sat with Maya in the ICU." The explosion was immediate. 11 missed calls by 8:15, texts in all caps, voice messages I deleted without listening. Then, at 8:47, my office phone rang. Northlight Capital Advisors, Brooke speaking. "Don't you dare hang up on me." My mother's voice could have frozen helium. "What is this dollar nonsense? It's what I'm contributing to Shelby's wedding. You have $32,000 in that account." Had, past tense. That money has been moved to a trust for Maya's medical and educational expenses. I kept my voice professional, knowing my calls were recorded for quality assurance. The emergency fund you've been treating as your personal ATM is closed. That's our money too. According to my records, you've contributed exactly $0 to that account. However, you've withdrawn. I pulled up my spreadsheet. $16,412 without authorization. Would you like to discuss repayment plans? The silence stretched. In the background, I could hear Shelby shrieking about her dress appointment. "I'm coming to your office." "I have clients all day. If you'd like to schedule." She'd already hung up. Security called at 11:20 a.m. Ms. Hale, there's a Linda Whitman here. She says she's your mother. She doesn't have an appointment. Please ask her to leave. 10 minutes later, she was in the elevator. Building security had let her through because she'd claimed a medical emergency. She burst through our glass doors looking like suburban fury incarnate Michael Kors bag swinging, diamond tennis bracelet catching the light, face twisted with the kind of rage usually reserved for incorrect Starbucks orders. You ungrateful Linda. I stood, keeping my desk between us. This is my workplace. If you don't leave immediately, I'll have security escort you out. My colleague Daniel poked his head out of his office, phone already in hand. The receptionist had her finger on the panic button. You're having a breakdown, my mother announced loudly, performing for the audience. Ever since your divorce, you've been paranoid, erratic. We're just trying to help you. I pulled out the printed bank statement Ramon had prepared, highlighting the withdrawals. Is this helping? Taking money from my account while Maya was in the ICU. We needed funds for expenses. What expenses? I kept my voice level. The wine tasting in Boulder that Shelby posted about the spa day you had yesterday. How dare you monitor? It's on Facebook. Linda, public posts. She reached for the statement. I pulled it back, placing it in my desk drawer. My attorney will be sending you a formal notice about the unauthorized withdrawals. I suggest you get legal representation. Attorney! Her voice cracked slightly. Brooke, we're family. Family doesn't steal $51,000. That's ridiculous. We borrowed without asking, without repaying, while having a spare key to my house to access my financial documents. That's not borrowing. That's theft. Daniel stepped into view. Everything okay? Brooke. Mrs. Whitman was just leaving. My mother's face cycled through several expressions. Anger, calculation, then an attempt at tears. After everything we've done for you, we raised you, supported you. You mean I supported you? Every refinance, every credit card bailout, every emergency that somehow only affected Shelby or your house renovations that never happened. Shelby needs that dress, then Shelby can pay for it. Or you can, with your own money. You're destroying this family. No, I said, standing straighter. I'm just closing the bank. She stood there, trembling with rage, her carefully constructed image of the concerned mother crumbling. You'll regret this. When you need us, like when Maya was in the ICU, that stopped her cold. Leave, I said quietly. Now. She turned on her designer heels, marching out with as much dignity as she could salvage. The entire office watched her go. Holy shit, Daniel whispered after the elevator closed. Your mom. Unfortunately, that afternoon, Ramon called. They tried to access the old account 6 times today, the new trust once, all blocked. They also called claiming you're mentally unstable and they need emergency access to help you. What did you tell them? That without power of attorney or a court order, they can pound sand. My words were more professional, but same message. Thanks, Ramon. There's more. Your father tried to open a credit card in your name this morning. The credit company called to verify since we'd flagged your accounts. Identity theft. Add it to the list. That evening, while Maya colored at the kitchen table, I drafted an email to both parents and Shelby. Clear? Professional. Bulletproof. As of today, all financial accounts have been secured with fraud protections. Any attempts to access accounts or open credit in my name will be investigated as identity theft. The $51,000 in unauthorized withdrawals has been documented and forwarded to legal counsel. Future communication regarding this matter should go through my attorney. I attached Ramon's cease and desist letter and hit send. Within minutes, my phone exploded again. This time, I let it ring. The locksmith arrived at 7 a.m., sharp on Saturday. A burly guy named Marcus who'd seen enough domestic situations to not ask questions when I requested the complete package new deadbolts, smart locks with unique codes, even a reinforced strike plate on the back door. You want the door sensors too? He asked, holding up a small device. Sends an alert to your phone if anyone tries to force entry. Everything, I said. Maya watched from the stairs, clutching her stuffed elephant. Are we keeping bad guys out? Something like that. Baby. Marcus worked methodically, drilling out the old locks my parents had keys to. Each one fell away with a satisfying clunk. 3 hours and $1,800 later. My house was mine again. Here's all 6 keys, Marcus said, handing me a ring. Digital codes are in this envelope. You can change them anytime through the app. I programmed the smart lock immediately, setting up notifications for every entry attempt. Then I typed out a formal notice. Effective immediately. All previous access to my residence has been revoked. Any attempt to enter without explicit written permission will be considered trespassing. This includes all spare keys previously distributed. I sent it via certified mail and email, keeping screenshots of everything. Sunday morning brought an unexpected peace. Maya and I made pancakes, her breathing finally back to normal. We were settling in to watch a movie when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the front door camera. My parents' silver Lexus in the driveway, both of them approaching the door, my father carrying his key ring. I watched on my phone as he inserted the old key. It didn't turn. He tried again, jiggling it. My mother pushed him aside, pulling out her copy. Same result. They rang the doorbell. I didn't answer. Brooke. My mother's voice carried through the door. Open up right now. We need to talk. Maya looked at me, worried. I smoothed her hair. Let's go play in your room, sweetheart. The doorbell became insistent, then pounding. The new door sensors sent alert after alert to my phone. I screenshot each one evidence of attempted forced entry. After 20 minutes, they gave up. But the security camera caught my father's parting shot keying the side of my Honda Civic on their way out. A long, deliberate scratch from headlight to tail. I called the police. Officers Martinez and Sullivan again, looking weary as they took my statement. They keyed your car. Sullivan examined the scratch, taking photos. It's on camera, I said, showing him the footage. That's vandalism. You want to press charges. I want it documented. By noon, the calls started. Not to me, I'd blocked their numbers, but to extended family, friends, even my ex-husband. Your mom called, Ryan said when he dropped Maya off after his weekend. She says you're having a mental breakdown, that you've locked them out and stolen their emergency funds. Their emergency fund? I laughed bitterly. Ryan, they've taken $51,000 from me over 7 years. Jesus, I always wondered why you were so stressed about money when you make good income. Now you know. He paused at the door. She also said you're being vindictive about Shelby's wedding, that you're trying to ruin it. I gave her $1. $1. For her veil. It's all she's getting. Ryan actually smiled, the first genuine smile we'd shared since the divorce. Good for you. Monday brought escalation. The cease and desist letter had been delivered. My mother's response was to call the police again, this time claiming elder abuse, that I'd locked vulnerable senior citizens out of property they had a right to access. This time. Officer Sullivan looked irritated when he arrived. Ma'am, your parents are 58 and 60. They're hardly elderly. And they've provided no proof of ownership or residency at this address. They're claiming I stole their emergency fund. The same fund they claimed you stole last week when you're the sole contributor. He flipped through his notebook. We've also got the vandalism report from yesterday, and a false police report from Tuesday. Your parents are walking a thin line. I have everything documented. Good. Keep doing that. He paused. Between you and me, file a restraining order. This is escalating. That afternoon, my attorney recommended by Ramon sent a formal demand letter, cease all contact. Cease all attempts to access property or accounts, and prepare for civil action to recover stolen funds. The response came at 11:43 p.m., not from my parents, but from Shelby. You've destroyed Mom. She's had to take anxiety medication. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. All because you're jealous of my wedding. The dress appointment is tomorrow, and thanks to you, I'll have to wear something off the rack. I hope you're happy. You selfish bitch. I didn't respond. Instead, I took another screenshot for my lawyer. Tuesday morning. I installed a camera in my backyard after finding footprints in the flower bed beneath my office window. The lock on the garden shed had scratches around it someone had tried to pick it. The security app showed an attempted entry at 314A, mem. The fortress was holding, but they were testing every wall. The invitation had arrived 3 months ago, embossed gold lettering on cream cardstock that probably cost more than most people's weekly groceries. Shelby was marrying Tyler Morrison, heir to a commercial real estate empire, and the engagement party was set for the rooftop terrace at the Crawford Hotel in downtown Denver. I hadn't planned to go, but then Ramon called Thursday afternoon. "You need to see this," he said. "Tyler Morrison's father just opened an account with us. During the paperwork, he mentioned his son's fiancé's family. Brooke, he thinks your parents are wealthy. He specifically mentioned their generous contributions to the wedding." Contributions of my money. That's fraud by deception, if they're representing stolen funds as their own wealth to secure this marriage. I hung up and called my lawyer. By Friday afternoon, I had a manila envelope containing everything: bank statements, withdrawal records, the ATM photo of my mother stealing money while Maya was in the ICU, screenshots of text demands, the cease and desist letter, and a notarized affidavit detailing the $51,000 in theft. Saturday night, I put on my best black cocktail dress, the Louboutins I'd bought myself after closing a major client deal, and the diamond earrings from my grandmother, the only family heirloom my mother hadn't managed to borrow. The Crawfords' rooftop terrace glowed with string lights and heat lamps against the October chill. Denver's skyline glittered behind a crowd of the city's social climbers and legitimate wealthy. I spotted Tyler's parents immediately, Margaret and James Morrison, looking like they'd stepped out of Town and Country magazine. My parents held court near the bar, my mother in a dress I recognized from Neiman Marcus's window display at least $3,000. My father wore a new Rolex. Shelby, radiant in white tacky for an engagement party, but typical, clung to Tyler's arm while showing off a diamond that could anchor a yacht. I waited, mingled, let distant relatives express surprise at seeing me. "We thought you weren't coming," Aunt Patricia whispered. "Linda said you were having some kind of breakdown." "I got better," I said, sipping champagne that cost more per bottle than my parents had ever contributed to our emergency fund. The speeches started at 9 p.m. Tyler's father spoke about family values, about building something together. My mother spoke about sacrifice and love, about how family supports family through everything. That's when I made my move. I approached Tyler and his parents during the brief break before the toast. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison. Tyler, I'm Brooke, Shelby's sister. Could I speak with you privately for just a moment? It's rather urgent." Margaret Morrison's eyes narrowed slightly. She was sharp. "This one." "Of course." We stepped to a quieter corner of the terrace. I handed Tyler the envelope. "I apologize for the timing, but you need to know this before you fully commit your family's resources and reputation." Tyler opened it, his face changing as he scanned the documents. "What is this?" "Proof that the $51,000 my parents have been spending, including on this party and your fiancé's ring, was stolen from my accounts over 7 years? That ATM photo. That's my mother withdrawing money from my account while my 6-year-old daughter was in the ICU. James Morrison took the papers, his businessman's eye catching the important details immediately. "This is documented theft." "Yes, and they're representing it as their wealth to your family. That's fraud." Tyler's face had gone pale. Shelby knew. I showed him the screenshots. "She actively participated. Those texts are her demanding $10,000 for her wedding dress from an account she knew was funded entirely by me." Margaret Morrison's voice was ice. "Tyler, go get Shelby, now." What happened next was pure theater. Tyler walked back to the main party, papers in hand, and pulled Shelby aside. She laughed at first, then her face changed as she read. Her voice carried across the terrace. "That's not we didn't, Mom said it was family money." My mother rushed over, saw the papers, and her carefully maintained composure shattered. How dare you bring this here? How dare you steal $51,000 and use it to deceive the Morrisons? I kept my voice level, aware that everyone was watching now. It's family money. My mother's voice pitched higher. Show me one deposit you made. One. Silence. Tyler turned to Shelby. You knew. These texts. You knew it was stolen. It's not stealing from family, Shelby protested. She owes us, for what? I asked. For me paying your credit cards, for co-signing the house, for covering every emergency that only seemed to affect you. My father tried to intervene. His face flushed. This is a family matter. No. James Morrison cut him off. This is fraud. You presented yourselves as something you're not, using stolen funds. He turned to Tyler. We're leaving. Dad, now. The Morrisons walked out, Tyler following after one last look at Shelby. The rooftop had gone silent except for the wind and distant traffic. My mother turned to me, her voice venomous. You've ruined your sister's life. No, I said, gathering my purse. You ruined it when you taught her that theft was acceptable as long as you called it family. I walked to the elevator, my heels clicking on the marble. Behind me, I heard Shelby sobbing, my father shouting, guests murmuring. The elevator doors closed on the sound of my family's con game finally, publicly, catastrophically falling apart. In the parking garage, my phone buzzed. Tyler. Thank you. My father's lawyer will be in touch about recovering the ring. We'll make sure you get back what was stolen. I sat in my car for a moment, hands shaking slightly. Then I drove home to Maya, to our fortress of new locks and honest life, leaving the wreckage of the Whitman family grift burning on a rooftop behind me. The fallout was swift and brutal. By Monday morning, Tyler had filed a police report for fraud regarding the engagement ring. The Morrisons' lawyer, a shark in Armani named David Chin, had already contacted my attorney with a deal-full cooperation in recovering assets, and they wouldn't pursue criminal charges against Shelby. Tuesday brought my parents to my office again, but this time with their own lawyer, a nervous-looking man who'd clearly been hired last minute. Security called up, and I met them in the conference room with my attorney, Patricia Ruiz, and Ramon as a witness. My clients are prepared to negotiate. Their lawyer started. Patricia slid a folder across the table. There's nothing to negotiate. Your client stole $51,000. Here's our demand: full restitution within 90 days, plus interest, plus legal fees. Sign a binding agreement to cease all contact with my client and her daughter. In exchange, we don't pursue criminal charges. This is extortion, my mother spat. No, Patricia said calmly. Extortion is demanding $10,000 for a wedding dress while someone's child is in the ICU. This is consequence. My father's lawyer reviewed the documents, his face growing paler. Gary, Linda, you need to consider this. The evidence is overwhelming. We also require, I added, a written statement acknowledging the theft, to be provided to the Morrisons for their insurance claim on the ring. Shelby, who'd been silent, finally exploded. You're destroying my life. Tyler won't return my calls. I'm probably going to lose my job. And now you want us to admit to crimes? You committed crimes, Patricia stated. This is mercy. The negotiations took 3 hours. In the end, faced with potential federal charges for wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy, they signed everything. The repayment plan, $10,000 immediately, ironically. The amount they'd demanded for the dress, then $2,000 monthly for 20 months, secured against their house. If you miss a single payment, Patricia warned, we file criminal charges immediately. My mother's signature was shaky. My father's jaw clenched so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Shelby just cried. But the real justice came Wednesday afternoon. Officer Sullivan called me personally. Thought you'd want to know we've charged your mother with filing a false police report. Twice. The DA is considering additional charges for the attempted identity theft your bank reported. What does that mean? Probably probation, but it'll be on her record. And that civil suit with the Morrisons with a criminal record, she won't win anything. Thursday, Ramon called with good news. The Morrisons recovered the ring through their insurance. They're donating the settlement to Children's Hospital Colorado in Maya's name. They didn't have to. James Morrison said anyone who'd protect their child the way you did deserved respect. The donation is $35,000. I sat at my desk, staring at the number. My stolen money, transformed into something that would help sick children. Friday afternoon, the locksmith Marcus called. Ms. Hale, just wanted you to know. Someone tried to hire me to duplicate your new keys. Said they were your parents, lost their copies. I told them I'd need written authorization from you. Thank you. No problem. I keep good records, especially when people offer me triple my rate to forget protocols. The restraining orders were approved Monday. No contact for 2 years. Renewable. My parents and Shelby couldn't come within 500 feet of Maya or me. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Brooke? A woman's voice, uncertain. Yes. I'm Jennifer Paulson. I was going to be Shelby's maid of honor. I wanted you to know what you did was brave. She'd been bragging for months about how her family was funding everything, but we all knew your parents didn't have that kind of money. When Tyler told us the truth, it made sense. I'm sorry you got caught in the middle. Don't be. You saved Tyler from a lifetime of this. And honestly, you probably saved Shelby too. Maybe now she'll have to learn to stand on her own feet. The first repayment check came exactly 30 days after signing $10,000 in certified funds. The memo line, probably written by their lawyer, said, restitution payment 1 of 21. I deposited it directly into Maya's education trust. 6 months later, I ran into Aunt Patricia at the grocery store. She hugged me, then pulled back to look at me. You look good, healthy. I am. Your mother tells everyone you had a nervous breakdown, that you became paranoid and vindictive. And what do you tell them? Patricia smiled. I tell them about the time she borrowed $500 from my purse during Grandma's funeral and never paid it back. That usually shuts down the conversation. Maya and I have built a good life in our fortress. The new locks work perfectly. The security system never alerts anymore. They've learned to stay away. Every month, a check arrives, slowly repaying what was stolen. Shelby works at a department store now, living in a studio apartment. My parents sold their house to cover the restitution and legal fees, moving to a small condo in Aurora. The family gatherings I'm told about but never invited to are apparently quiet, tense affairs. I don't miss them. I don't miss the anxiety of checking my bank balance, wondering what new emergency would drain my accounts. I don't miss the guilt, the manipulation, the constant emotional invoices. Family doesn't always mean blood. Sometimes family is the nurse who brings you a sandwich during your daughter's health crisis, the ex-husband who supports your boundaries, the old colleague who helps you build financial fortresses. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for your family is to change the locks on your doors, your accounts, and your heart. The locks on all 3 are holding strong. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to set tough boundaries with family? I'd really like to hear your experiences.